Before we begin tonight's story, if you're enjoying these accounts from tribal law enforcement, please take a moment to subscribe and hit that like button. It really helps us continue sharing these experiences. And I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments. Now let's get into this story from Canyon to Chelly. My name is Jesse Yazzie, and I feel compelled to tell you about an incident that occurred in the fall of 1995. I was a Navajo tribal police officer stationed in Chinle and was responsible for the Canyon to Chelly area. For those unfamiliar, Canyon to Chelly is one of the most sacred places of the Navajo Nation. Red sandstone walls reaching 1,000 feet high, ancient rock dwellings hidden in caves, and a deep silence that makes you feel as if the world itself has held its breath. I'd been on the force for 12 years by then. I knew every trail, every ruin, every dangerous drop-off in that canyon. I'd pulled tourists out of trouble more times than I could count, usually city people who didn't understand how unforgiving the desert could be. But I'd never seen anything like what I'm about to describe. It started on October 15th. I remember the date exactly because it was 2 days after my daughter Emma's 16th birthday. We'd had a small party at home, just the two of us. Her mother Linda had passed away from cancer 2 years earlier, and birthdays were hard without her. But Emma was strong, like her mother. She'd blown out her candles and made a wish, and I'd held her tight and promised I'd always be there for her. I should have known better than to make promises I couldn't keep. That morning, I dropped Emma off at Chinle High School before my shift. She kissed my cheek and told me to be careful out there. She always said that ever since her mother died, like she was afraid I might not come home either. "Always am, sweetheart," I told her. "Love you. Love you too, Dad." I watched her walk into school, her backpack bouncing, her long black hair catching the morning sun. I didn't know that would be the last normal moment we'd share for 40 years. The call came in around 10 a.m. A tourist had gone missing in the canyon, a woman from Phoenix named Jenna Martinez. She'd gone hiking alone the previous afternoon, against all advice, and hadn't returned to her hotel. Her rental car was still parked at the White House Overlook trailhead, doors locked, no signs of trouble. I met with the hotel manager and Jenna's sister who'd driven up from Phoenix when Jenna didn't answer her phone. The sister Monica was frantic. "She does this," Monica said. "Goes off alone to think, to disconnect, but she always checks in, always." "Did she mention where she was planning to hike?" "The White House Trail. She wanted to see the ruins up close. I told her to take a guide, but Jenna's stubborn. She said she could follow a marked trail." I knew the White House Trail well. It was the only trail in the canyon that tourists could hike without a Navajo guide. 2.5 miles, well-maintained, mostly safe if you had common sense and water. But the canyon had a way of confusing people. Side canyons that looked inviting, unmarked trails that went nowhere, cliff edges hidden by vegetation. "I'll find her," I promised Monica. "The canyon's big, but there are only so many places she could be." I gathered my gear and started down the White House Trail. It was a clear day, temperature in the 70s, perfect hiking weather. The trail descended through layers of geological time, the sandstone walls rising higher with each switchback. By the time I reached the canyon floor, I was surrounded by walls 800 feet high, the sky reduced to a ribbon of blue overhead. The White House ruins sat in an alcove across the wash, ancient stone rooms that had housed ancestral Puebloan people 1,000 years ago. It was a popular photo spot, and I half expected to find Jenna there, embarrassed to have caused such a fuss. But she wasn't there. The ruins were empty, silent except for the wind whistling through the ancient doorways. I called her name, my voice echoing off the canyon walls. No response. I pulled out my GPS unit and checked her last known position based on cell phone data. The signal had been lost about a mile north of the ruins, deeper in the canyon where the walls closed in and blocked reception. That made sense. What didn't make sense was what the GPS was showing me. According to the device, there was a marked waypoint directly ahead, labeled Sacred Mountain. I frowned. I hadn't entered that waypoint. The GPS came preloaded with known landmarks, trails, and emergency points, but this wasn't one of them. I selected the waypoint to see the details: coordinates, elevation, distance. And then I saw something that made my blood run cold. The elevation reading was 15,847 feet. That was impossible. Canyon de Chelly sat at about 5,500 feet above sea level. The highest point in the entire canyon system was maybe 7,000 feet at the rim. There was no mountain anywhere near here that reached 15,847 feet. For reference, that was higher than any of the 4 sacred mountains. Cisnagini in Colorado topped out at 14,345 feet. Tsudziu at 11,301 feet. Duk-o-Swede at 12,633 feet. Dibe Nitsa at 12,943 feet. The 4 sacred mountains that bounded Diné Bikeya, the Navajo homeland. The mountains that defined the 4 cardinal directions of our world, the corners of our existence. There were 4 sacred mountains, not 5. There had never been a 5th. I stared at the GPS, wondering if it was malfunctioning. But the device showed full satellite lock, strong signal, accurate position. Everything seemed to be working perfectly except for this impossible waypoint. I should have turned back, should have called for additional search teams, stuck to the known trails. But something pulled at me, a feeling I can't quite describe, like a voice in my blood saying this way, this direction, this is where you need to go. I followed the GPS coordinates north, leaving the marked trail behind. The canyon narrowed here, the walls pressing in close, the floor becoming rocky and difficult. I climbed over boulders, waded through shallow water, pushed through tamarisk and willow. The GPS showed me getting closer to the waypoint, but the elevation reading made no sense. According to the device, I was climbing steadily, gaining hundreds of feet with each step, but I was walking on the canyon floor. If anything, I was going slightly downhill. Then I rounded a bend and saw it. A trail. Not an old ancestral Puebloan trail or a modern hiking trail, but something in between. Stone steps carved into the canyon wall, weathered but still intact, leading up and up and up. They disappeared into a narrow cleft I'd never noticed before, though I'd patrolled this canyon for years. At the base of the steps was a pile of stones, a cairn, and on top of the cairn, something glinted in the sunlight. I climbed over and picked it up. It was a badge, a Navajo tribal police badge, old and tarnished. The number was 247. I wore badge number 318. We had about 40 officers in our district. Badge 247 would have been issued decades ago, back in the 60s or 70s. I turned it over. Engraved on the back were the words, "To the 5th direction. May we walk in beauty." My grandmother had taught me about the 4 directions when I was a child. East, where the sun rises, the direction of beginning. South, the direction of life and growth. West, where the sun sets, the direction of endings. North, the direction of wisdom and old age. 4 directions. 4 sacred mountains. 4 corners of existence. But some of the old stories, the ones whispered late at night, mentioned a 5th direction. Not north or south or east or west, but inward. The direction that led to the spirit world, to the place beyond the physical. The direction that few could walk and fewer could return from. I looked up at the stone steps disappearing into the cleft. The GPS insisted there was a mountain up there. A mountain taller than any in Navajo country. a mountain that couldn't exist. I should have left. I should have marked the location and gone back for help. But I thought about Jenna Martinez, missing for over 24 hours now. If she'd come this way, she might be hurt, trapped, waiting for rescue. I started climbing. The steps were worn smooth by countless feet over countless years. They'd been here long before the ancestral Puebloans, before the Navajo, before anyone whose name we remembered. These steps were old in a way that made my bones ache. As I climbed, the canyon walls seemed to shift around me. The narrow cleft opened into a hidden passage, a secret fold in the rock that shouldn't have been possible given the geology I knew. The air grew thinner, colder, though we were nowhere near the elevation where that should happen. I checked the GPS. According to the device, I'd climbed 3,000 feet in the last half hour, but when I looked back down, the canyon floor was still visible maybe 200 feet below me. The GPS was lying. Or the world was lying. I wasn't sure which would be worse. I kept climbing. The passage twisted and turned, sometimes so narrow I had to squeeze through sideways, sometimes opening into small chambers where ancient pottery shards littered the ground. I saw pictographs on the walls, symbols I didn't recognize. Not ancestral Puebloan, not Navajo, something older. Then I heard something that stopped me in my tracks. Voices, people talking, somewhere above me. Speaking Navajo. "Hello?" I called out. "This is Navajo Tribal Police. Is anyone up there? Jenna Martinez." The voices stopped. Silence for a long moment. Then a man's voice, speaking in formal, old-fashioned Navajo. "Who calls from the below place? Who climbs the forbidden path?" "My name is Jesse Yazzie. I'm a police officer. I'm looking for a missing woman." More silence, then, "Come up, Jesse Yazzie. Come to the 5th mountain. But know that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Once you know the inward path, you cannot unknow it." I continued climbing, my heart pounding. The passage opened up, and suddenly I was stepping out onto level ground. I blinked in the bright sunlight, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. I stood in a high valley, surrounded by peaks that jutted into an impossibly blue sky. Meadows of grass, stands of pine trees, a stream running clear and cold. The air was thin but sweet, carrying the scent of flowers I couldn't identify. And in the center of the valley, nestled against the base of the highest peak, was a village. Not ruins, not an archaeological site. A living, breathing village with smoke rising from chimneys, people working in gardens, children playing in the stream. I walked toward it, my mind struggling to process what I was seeing. The buildings were traditional Navajo hogans, but built with a craftsmanship I'd rarely seen. Everything was maintained, cared for, lived in. As I got closer, people started emerging from the hogans. They watched me approach with expressions of curiosity and caution. They were dressed in traditional clothing, wool and leather and silver, but the styles were old, very old, like something from photographs I'd seen of my great-grandparents' generation. An elder stepped forward to meet me. He was maybe 60, with long, gray hair and a face that had seen many hard years. But there was something about him, a vitality, a clarity in his eyes that didn't match his age. "Jesse Yazzie," he said. "Born for Towering House Clan, born to Bitter Water Clan. You're welcome here, though your path was not supposed to lead to us for many more years." "Where is here?" I asked. "What is this place?" "This is the 5th mountain, the sacred mountain that stands at the center, the mountain that points inward rather than outward. We are its people, and have been for—" He paused, calculating. 113 years now. 113 years. That would be 1882. "That's impossible. No one lives up here. This area has been surveyed, mapped, I've flown over this canyon a dozen times. There's no mountain, no valley, no village." "There is no mountain," the elder agreed. "Not in the world you come from. The fifth mountain exists in the direction that leads inward to the spirit place. It cannot be seen from outside, cannot be reached except by those who are called, or those who are searching for something they cannot find below." I looked around at the village, at the people watching me. They all had that same quality, that sense of being both young and impossibly old at the same time. "The woman I'm looking for, Jenna Martinez, is she here?" The elder nodded slowly. "She arrived yesterday. She climbed the forbidden path seeking peace from her troubles. We have offered her shelter. I need to take her back. Her family is worried. You may speak with her, but whether she returns is her choice, not yours." He gestured toward one of the larger hogans. "She is there, with the other newcomers." Other newcomers. That should have been my first real warning about what this place really was. I walked to the hogan and knocked on the door frame. A woman's voice called out in English, "Come in." I ducked through the low doorway and found myself in a warm, comfortable space. Jenna Martinez sat on a rug-covered floor, drinking from a clay cup. She looked healthy, calm, better than someone who'd been lost in the desert for 30 hours should look. "Ms. Martinez, I'm Officer Yazzie. Your sister Monica asked me to find you." "I know. I'm sorry she's worried." Jenna set down the cup. "But I'm not lost. I'm exactly where I need to be." "Ma'am, you need to come back with me. Your family will understand, eventually." She smiled, and there was something serene about it, something that made me deeply uneasy. "Jesse, I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I have maybe 6 months to live, according to my doctors in Phoenix. 6 months of pain and sickness and slow death. I'm sorry, but here, I don't have cancer. Here, I don't have any sickness at all. Here, time works differently. The elder, Benjamin, he explained it to me. This is the fifth mountain, the one that exists in the direction of spirit. Time doesn't touch this place the way it touches the world below. People here don't age, don't get sick, don't die. They live in eternal present, forever." I felt cold despite the warmth of the hogan. That's not possible. Neither is climbing 15,000 feet in an hour, but you did. Neither is a village that's been hidden for a century, but you're standing in it. This place is beyond possible, Jesse. It's beyond the laws you know. Miss Martinez, please. Your sister needs you." Jenna's expression softened with sadness. "My sister needs me to not die in agony, and here, I won't. I'm staying, Jesse. You can tell Monica I'm at peace. Tell her I love her. Tell her I'm somewhere beautiful, somewhere safe. But I'm not going back to that world where my body is destroying itself." I tried to argue with her for another 20 minutes, but it was useless. She'd made up her mind, and honestly, I couldn't blame her. If I were dying, if someone offered me a way out of pain and death, wouldn't I take it? I left the hogan and found the elder, Benjamin, waiting outside. "She's staying," I said. "Yes, they usually do once they understand what this place offers." "How many? How many people are living here?" 47 at the moment. Some have been here since the beginning, in 1882. Some arrived last year. Time has no meaning here, so it doesn't matter when you arrive. You're simply here, always here, in the eternal now. But the world below doesn't stop. Time keeps moving down there. Yes, that is the difficulty. Benjamin looked at me with knowing eyes. "Did you know that while you've been here speaking with Jenna and walking our village, 3 hours have passed in the world below? Time moves differently between the fifth mountain and the 4 directions. A day here is a month there. A year here is 12 years below. My stomach dropped. 3 hours? Your daughter will be wondering where you are. Emma, I'd told her I'd be home for dinner. I pulled out my radio, but there was only static. The GPS showed my position as the summit of an impossible mountain at 15,847 feet. You need to go back, Benjamin said gently. You are not ready for this place. You still have attachments below, purposes unfulfilled. The fifth mountain calls only those who have nothing left in the 4 directions. How do I get down? The same way you came up. But Jesse, you should know something. Now that you've found the 5th mountain, it will always be in your GPS. You will always know the way back. And someday, when your purposes below are complete, when your daughter has grown and your duty is done, you may choose to climb again. The mountain will be waiting. I don't want to come back. I want this place to not exist. Many have said the same, but existence is not about want. The 5th mountain exists because it must, because there must be a direction for those who can no longer walk in the 4 directions. This is the place of peace, of escape, of eternal presence. And one day, Jesse Yazzie, you will need it. I turned and walked back toward the passage, back toward the stone steps that led down to reality. As I descended, I could feel time speeding up around me, the hours I'd lost on the mountain catching up with me in seconds. By the time I reached the canyon floor, the sun was setting. 6 hours had passed. 6 hours that felt like 2. My radio crackled to life. Jesse, where the hell have you been? We've had search teams looking for you. Emma called the station 3 times. She's terrified. I keyed the radio. I'm fine. I found Jenna Martinez. She chose to stay where she is. What does that mean? It means close the case. She's not lost. She's exactly where she wants to be. I hiked back to my vehicle in the dark, my mind reeling. The GPS still showed the waypoint. 5th Sacred Mountain, 15,847 feet, 2.7 miles from current position. I could delete it. I could pretend I'd never found it. But Benjamin was right. Now that I'd seen it, I couldn't unsee it. Now that I knew the inward path, I couldn't unknow it. I drove home to Chinle, where Emma was waiting on the porch, relief washing over her face when she saw me. Dad, where were you? I called and called. I'm sorry, baby. I got turned around in the canyon, lost track of time. She hugged me tight, and I held her like I might never see her again. Because, somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew the truth. One day when Emma was grown and I was old, when my purposes in the 4 directions were complete, I would climb those stone steps again. I would return to the 5th mountain, and I would never come back down. For 3 years after that day, I tried to forget about the 5th mountain. I focused on my work, on raising Emma, on being the father she needed after losing her mother. I deleted the GPS waypoint a dozen times, but it always reappeared, like the mountain wouldn't let me forget it existed. Emma graduated from Chinle High in 1998, got accepted to Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff. I was proud of her, proud of the strong, intelligent woman she'd become. She wanted to study education, to come back and teach on the reservation. She had her mother's heart, her mother's desire to help our people. The day I dropped her off at the dorm, she hugged me at the car and wouldn't let go. Dad, are you going to be okay? Alone in that house? I'll be fine, sweetheart. You focus on your studies. I'll be here when you need me. Promise? Always. But as I drove back to Chinle alone, the house waiting for me empty and silent, I felt something shift inside me. A loosening of ties, a sense of purposes beginning to complete. Emma was launched, independent, on her own path. What was holding me in the four directions now? I pushed the thought away and threw myself into work. More patrols, longer shifts, volunteering for every difficult case. Anything to stay busy, to not think about the mountain that called to me every night in my dreams. Then, in November of 1998, I got a call that changed everything. A family had been reported missing from the Many Farms area. The Benallis, husband and wife, and their 8-year-old son. They'd gone hiking near Canyon to Chelly 3 days ago and never returned. Their truck was found at a trailhead, packed with camping gear, no signs of trouble. I was assigned to lead the search, and I knew, even before I checked the GPS, exactly where they'd gone. The waypoint was still there. Fifth Sacred Mountain. Still calling. I organized a search team, 6 officers and a dozen volunteers. We started at the trailhead and spread out through the canyon. I gave them all specific areas to cover, carefully avoiding the section where I knew the stone steps would be. But on the second day, one of the volunteers, a young man named Thomas Etzity, radioed in with excitement. "I found something, some kind of old trail, stone steps going up the canyon wall. Should I follow them?" My blood ran cold. "Negative. Mark the location and return to base camp. Do not climb those steps." "But Officer Yazzie, what if the Benallis went this way?" "That's an order, Thomas. Come back now." But the radio went silent. I called his name repeatedly, but there was no response. After 15 minutes, I made the decision I'd been dreading. I had to go back up the mountain. I left the other searchers and hiked to Thomas's last known position. I found the stone steps, the cairn at the base, and Thomas's backpack sitting on the ground. He'd gone up. I keyed my radio. "All units, this is Yazzie. I'm following a lead on the Benally family. Maintain search patterns. I'll report back in 2 hours." Then I turned off my radio and started climbing. The passage felt familiar this time, like returning to a place I'd known in another life. The twisting corridors, the narrow squeezes, the sensation of climbing thousands of feet while barely ascending. It took me 40 minutes to reach the top. The valley opened before me, exactly as I remembered. The impossible meadows, the clear sky, the village nestled against the mountain. But this time I wasn't surprised. This time I was prepared for what I'd find. Benjamin Nez was waiting for me at the valley entrance. The same ageless expression. The same knowing eyes. "Jesse Yazzie, you have returned sooner than I expected. I am looking for the Benally family and a volunteer named Thomas Etzity. Are they here?" "They are. The Benallis arrived 4 days ago, by our time. About 4 months in your world. The young man, Thomas, arrived this morning. 1 hour here, 3 hours below. 4 months. The Benallis had been reported missing 3 days ago, but they'd been here for 4 months. Time dilation worse than before. I need to speak with them. I need to bring them back." Benjamin's expression was sad. "You may speak with them. But Jesse, you should understand something. The Benallis did not stumble upon this place by accident. They were seeking it. William Benally's wife, Ruth, has multiple sclerosis. Progressive, degenerative. Below, she has perhaps 2 years before she loses the ability to walk, to care for herself, to care for their son. Here, she is strong and healthy. Here, her disease does not exist. There are treatments, therapies, which only slow the inevitable. Here, the inevitable does not come. Here, she will never worsen. Their son will never have to watch his mother deteriorate. But he'll never grow up. He'll never have a life beyond this valley. Is that not life? To be with family, healthy and whole, forever in the present moment? Many would call that paradise. I didn't have an answer to that. Benjamin led me into the village. It had grown since my last visit 3 years ago. More hogans, more gardens, more people. I saw faces I recognized from missing persons reports over the years. A woman from Tuba City who'd vanished in 1994. A man from Shiprock who'd been presumed dead in 1996. All of them here, all of them unchanged, living in the eternal present. We reached a hogan at the far end of the village. Benjamin knocked and called out in Navajo, "Jesse Yazzie has come to speak with the newcomers." The door opened, and William Benally stood there. He looked exactly like his driver's license photo, but healthier somehow. Less burdened. "Officer Yazzie, they said you'd come eventually." He stepped aside. "Come in." Inside, I found Ruth Benally sitting on the floor, weaving at a traditional loom. She worked with steady, sure hands, no tremor, no weakness. Their son, Danny, was playing with carved wooden animals in the corner. Ruth looked up at me and smiled. "You're here to take us back. Your family is worried. Your parents, William's brothers, they think you're dead. They'll grieve, yes, but grief passes. What doesn't pass, down there in the 4 directions, is disease. Here I'm whole. Here I can take care of my son. Here I can grow old with my husband. Except we won't grow old. We'll stay exactly as we are, forever." Danny looked up from his toys. "I like it here. There are other kids, and we play in the stream, and Mom doesn't get tired anymore." I looked at William. "You understand what you're giving up? Your careers, your extended family, everything you knew? We're giving up Ruth's slow death and Danny's trauma of watching it happen. We're giving up medical bills and fear and helplessness in exchange for this." He gestured around the hogan. "Peace, health, time together. How is that not a fair trade?" I sat down heavily. "What about Thomas Etzity?" "He's a volunteer. He didn't choose this. He was just searching for you." "Thomas has already decided to stay," Benjamin said from the doorway. "He's speaking with Jenna Martinez right now. She is explaining how the mountain works, how time flows here." "Jenna's still here?" "Of course. Why would she leave? Her cancer is gone here. She has been teaching some of our children English, sharing stories of the world below. She is happy." I felt dizzy. This place was like a trap, a beautiful cage that offered everything except the one thing that made life meaningful. Change, growth, risk, the possibility of ending. "I can't let you stay. I have to report that I found you." "Then report it," William said calmly. "Tell them we're alive, and we've chosen to stay somewhere they cannot follow. It's not illegal to disappear, Jesse. It's not a crime to choose peace over pain. Your GPS will bring others. More people will find this place, and those who need it will stay," Benjamin said. "Those who don't will return below. The mountain chooses, Jesse. It always has. It brought Jenna because she was dying. It brought the Benallys because Ruth needed healing. It brought Thomas because he was lonely. And it brought you because—" He trailed off, watching me with those ancient eyes. "Why?" I demanded. "Why did it bring me? I'm not dying. I don't need healing." "Don't you? Your wife died. Your daughter has left for university. You're 41 years old, doing a dangerous job in a harsh land. You have perhaps 30 years left, if you're lucky. Years of aging, of slowing down, of watching your body fail. Or you could stay here. Forever healthy, forever in your prime. When Emma finishes university, when she starts her own family, when she no longer needs you, you could return here and never leave." The offer hung in the air between us. "And if I stay now? What happens down there? 3 hours have passed since you climbed. By the time you descend, it will be 6 hours total. A long search day, nothing unusual, but if you stay for a week here, a year will pass below. Stay for a month, 10 years. At some point, Jesse, the people below, will stop searching for you. Emma will mourn you. Life will go on. I thought about Emma at NAU, starting her new life. If I stayed here for just one day, a month would pass down there. She'd come home for Thanksgiving to find me missing. She'd spend the holiday wondering if I was alive or dead. But if I waited, if I finished my time below, raised Emma through college, saw her married and settled, then came back here, I could live forever, healthy and strong, never having to face old age or infirmity or death. The temptation was almost overwhelming. "I need to go," I said, standing abruptly. "I need to go back now." Benjamin nodded as if he'd expected this. "You are not ready, but you will be someday. The mountain will wait." As I walked toward the passage, I saw Thomas at City standing with Jenna Martinez. He waved at me. "I'm staying, Officer Yazzie. This place is incredible. Thomas, you have a family down there. I'll see them again, eventually. Time works weird here, but Benjamin says visitors can come and go. I just have to be careful about how long I stay." But he wouldn't be careful. None of them were. The mountain had seduced them with its promise of escape, of eternal present, of never having to face endings. I descended the stone steps faster than I should have, my mind churning. When I reached the canyon floor, I checked my watch. 6 hours had passed, just as Benjamin predicted. I radioed the search team. "This is Yazzie. I found evidence the Benally family left the area voluntarily. Thomas Etsity is with them, closing the search." "What? Jesse, what are you talking about? Where are they?" "They're safe. They've chosen to leave the reservation. I'll file a full report." But I wouldn't. How could I? How could I explain the fifth mountain, the village outside of time, the people choosing immortality over life? That night, I called Emma at her dorm. "Dad, I was just thinking about you. How are you?" "I'm good, sweetheart. Just wanted to hear your voice. How are classes?" "Amazing. I love it here. I love learning, love the freedom. Is everything okay? You sound weird." "Everything's fine. I just wanted to tell you I love you. And I'm proud of you." "I love you too, Dad. Are you sure you're okay?" "Yeah, I want you to know that no matter what happens, you're the most important thing in my life. Everything I do is for you." "Dad, you're scaring me." "What's going on?" "Nothing, I promise. Just your old man being sentimental. You focus on school. I'll be here when you need me." After I hung up, I sat in the dark house for a long time. The GPS unit was on the table, the waypoint still glowing on the screen. Fifth Sacred Mountain, 2.7 miles from current position. I could go tonight, climb in the darkness, arrive at the village by dawn. Stay for a week, learn more about the place, about how it worked. Only 2 or 3 months would pass below. Emma wouldn't even be home for Thanksgiving yet. My hand reached for my keys. Then my phone rang. Emma's number. "Dad, I forgot to tell you, I'm coming home this weekend. I miss you, and I want to see the canyon before it gets too cold. Can you take me hiking?" I closed my eyes. "Of course, sweetheart, this weekend." "Great, I can't wait. Love you." "Love you too." I put the keys down, not this weekend, not while Emma still needed me, but someday. Someday, when my purposes in the 4 directions were complete, I would return to the fifth mountain. And I wouldn't come back down. Emma graduated from NAU in 2002 with honors in education. She got a job teaching 3rd grade at Chinley Elementary, moved into a small apartment in town. I helped her move in, hung pictures on her walls, assembled her bookshelf. She hugged me tight and thanked me for always being there. "I couldn't have done it without you, Dad." "You did it all yourself, sweetheart. I just cheered from the sidelines." 2 years later, she married Michael Begay, a good man who worked for the Navajo Nation Parks Department. I walked her down the aisle, gave her away, and spent the reception watching her dance with her new husband. She was radiant, happy, complete. At the end of the night, she found me sitting alone. "You okay, Dad?" "More than okay. This was perfect. You're perfect." "Don't be sad. You're not losing me." "I know. I'm not sad. I'm grateful. Your mother would have loved this day." She squeezed my hand. "She's here. I feel her. Don't you?" I did. Linda's spirit, watching our daughter begin her own family. The circle completing itself. Emma and Michael had their first child in 2006, a daughter they named Linda after her grandmother. I held my granddaughter in the hospital, this tiny perfect thing, and felt a shift inside me. Another generation launched, another tie loosening. But I stayed. I kept working, kept patrolling Canyon to Chelly, kept being grandpa to little Linda. I thought I had more time. I thought I could finish my purposes in the 4 directions naturally. Then, in 2008, everything changed. I was 51 years old when the pain started. Dull ache in my abdomen that I ignored for months, chalking it up to age and too much coffee. But it got worse, sharper. Eventually, Emma forced me to see a doctor. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 3, aggressive, poor prognosis. 6 months to a year, maybe longer with treatment. Chemotherapy, radiation, surgery if we caught it in time. The same disease that had killed Jenna Martinez in the timeline she'd left behind. I sat in the oncologist's office, the diagnosis ringing in my ears, and all I could think about was the 5th mountain. Jenna had escaped this fate. She'd climbed the forbidden path and found a place where cancer didn't exist. I could do the same. That night, Emma came over with Michael and baby Linda. She'd been crying. "We'll fight this, Dad, together. You'll do the treatment and you'll beat it." "Emma, no. You don't get to give up. Linda needs her grandpa. I need my dad. You're going to fight." And I did. For 18 months, I fought. Chemo that made me so sick I couldn't leave bed for days. Radiation that burned my skin. Surgery that left me weak and broken. I lost 50 pounds, lost my hair, lost my strength. But I didn't lose. The cancer went into remission. Miraculously, impossibly, it retreated. I was in the 2%, the lucky ones. Emma threw me a remission party in 2010. All my friends from the force, half the town showed up. Everyone celebrated the miracle, the victory over death. But I knew the truth. Pancreatic cancer almost always came back. I had maybe 2, 3 years before it returned. And next time, I might not be lucky. The 5th mountain whispered to me every night. "Come," it said. "Come before the pain returns. Come while you're still strong enough to make the climb." But I couldn't leave Emma. Not yet. Not while her daughter was so young. I stayed. I worked part-time now, taking easier assignments. I babysat Linda while Emma taught. I lived in the 4 directions, doing my duty, being grandpa, waiting. The cancer came back in 2013. Aggressive, fast-spreading, beyond treatment this time. 6 months, the doctor said. Maybe less. I was 56 years old, and I was dying. Emma was devastated. She wanted me to try experimental treatments to fight again, but I was tired. So tired of fighting. I'd beaten it once. I didn't have another battle in me. One evening in April, I sat her down and told her something close to the truth. Sweetheart, I need to tell you about something. A place I found years ago in the canyon. A place where people go when they need peace. Dad, what are you talking about? I'm not going to do more treatment, but I'm not going to die in a hospital bed either. I'm going to go to this place and I'm going to be at peace there. I need you to understand that I'm choosing this. I'm choosing to end my time in the 4 directions on my own terms. The 4 directions? Dad, you're not making sense. Emma, listen to me. You've given me everything a father could ask for. You've grown into an incredible woman. You're raising a beautiful daughter. You're teaching our children. My purposes here are complete. It's time for me to walk the inward path. She was crying now. I don't want you to go. I know. But I have to. The pain is getting worse, and I don't want you to watch me deteriorate. I want you to remember me strong. Remember me as Grandpa who played with Linda, not as the sick old man in a hospital bed. Where is this place? It's in the canyon. I can't explain it better than that, but it's real, and it's beautiful, and it's where I need to be. Can I visit? I hesitated. Could she? Would the mountain let her climb and return? Or would it keep her like it kept everyone else who climbed seeking something they'd lost? Someday, maybe. When you're ready. When your purposes in the 4 directions are complete. She hugged me tight, and I held her like I'd done when she was a little girl after her mother died. I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in this world or any other. The next day, I packed a small bag. Not much, just some water and food for the hike. I drove to Canyon de Chelly, to the trailhead where I'd found the stone steps 15 years ago. The GPS waypoint was still there, waiting. I started hiking. The canyon was quiet, peaceful. I took my time, saying goodbye to this world with each step. The red walls, the desert sky, the ancient stones that had witnessed so much human suffering and survival. I found the cairn at the base of the steps. The old badge was still there, tarnished number 247. I added my own badge to the pile, number 318, and started climbing. The passage felt different this time, welcoming, like coming home after a long journey. My body ached with every step, cancer eating away at me, but I pushed through. I had to make it to the top. I had to reach the 5th mountain before the pain became too much. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time was already becoming fluid. When I finally emerged into the valley, the sun was setting, painting the peaks in gold and purple. The village looked the same, eternal and unchanged. Benjamin Nez was waiting for me, exactly as I knew he would be. Jesse Yazzie, you have returned. You are ready now. I'm ready. I'm dying, Benjamin. The cancer is back, and this time it's going to kill me, unless I stay here. Then stay. The mountain welcomes you home. I walked into the village as the stars came out, more stars than I'd ever seen, brilliant and close. People emerged from their hogans to greet me. Jenna Martinez, still young and healthy. The Benallis, their son Danny, now eternally 8 years old. Thomas Etzity, who'd been here for 15 years but hadn't aged a day. They showed me to a hogan that would be mine. Inside, there was a fire burning, warm and inviting. The pain in my abdomen was already fading. That first night I slept better than I had in years. No pain, no fear, no countdown to death. Just peace. In the morning, I woke to find my reflection in a bowl of water. The changes were subtle but unmistakable. My skin looked healthier, less gray. My eyes were clearer. The sickness was leaving my body. Benjamin found me at breakfast. How long has it been down there? I asked. You climbed yesterday afternoon. It is now morning here, perhaps 12 hours. Below, 3 days have passed. Emma is beginning to worry, but she knows where you've gone. She's telling people you went on a spiritual retreat into the canyon. 3 days. In 3 more days here, a week would pass below. In a week, a month. In a month, a year. I'd told Emma I was choosing this, but had I really thought through what it meant? Every day I stayed here, weeks passed in her life. She'd age, raise her daughter, grow old, and I'd be here, unchanged, watching time ravage her from afar. Can I go down, just to see her one more time? Benjamin's expression was grave. You can descend. But Jesse, you should know something. The mountain takes a price for leaving once you've chosen to stay. For every day you spend here, you age a month when you return below. If you've been here 3 days and you descend now, you'll age 3 months instantly when you reach the canyon floor. That's not so bad. But the price increases. Stay here for a week, descend, and you'll age 7 years. Stay a month, descend, and you'll age 30 years. The longer you remain here, the higher the price for leaving. I felt sick. Why? Why does it work that way? Because the mountain is the direction that leads inward, away from time. To return to time, you must pay back everything you borrowed, with interest. So, if I stay here for a year and then try to go back, you'd age 12 years in an instant. Your body couldn't survive it. Most people who stay here for more than a few months can never leave. The price becomes too high. I understood then. This was the trap. Not a cruel trap, but an inevitable one. The mountain offered escape from death, but at the cost of ever returning to life. How long have I been here? I asked. 3 days. And down there? 9 days. Emma is planning your memorial service. She thinks you've gone to die alone in the canyon, like you told her you would. 9 days. If I left now, I'd age 9 months. I was 56. I'd be 57 by the time I reached the canyon floor. Older, weaker, but alive. I could see Emma one more time, explain, say a proper goodbye. But the cancer would still be there. The pain would return. I'd have maybe 3 months before I was too sick to move. Or I could stay here. Let Emma think I died. Let her grieve and move on, live here in peace and health forever. I spent the next day walking the valley, thinking. I watched the people here, truly saw them for the first time. They were content, peaceful, healthy, but there was something missing in their eyes. A spark, a vitality that comes from living with risk, with stakes, with the possibility of ending. They were alive, but they weren't living. That night, I made my decision. I found Benjamin at the central fire, where the village gathered for stories and songs. I'm leaving, I told him. Tomorrow morning. I'm going back down. You've been here 4 days. You'll age 4 months. I know, but I need to see Emma one more time. I need to tell her the truth about this place, and I need to die in the 4 directions, not hiding here in the 5th. Benjamin studied me for a long moment. You would choose death over immortality? I'm choosing completion over escape. This place is beautiful, Benjamin, but it's not alive. Not really. Time is what makes life meaningful. Change, growth, endings. Without them, we're just echoes, frozen in a moment, pretending it's enough. Many would disagree with you. Maybe. But I've lived 56 years in the 4 directions. I've loved, lost, suffered, celebrated. I've raised a daughter and held my granddaughter. I've known pain and joy and everything between. Those experiences, those changes, they made me who I am. I won't abandon them for eternal stasis. Then go with our blessing, Jesse Yazzie. Return to the 4 directions. Complete your circle. We will remember you as the one who chose mortality. In the morning, I said goodbye to Jenna and the Benallis and Thomas. They didn't understand my choice, but they respected it. I started down the stone steps as the sun rose. With each step, I felt time catching up to me, months of aging compressed into moments. My joints ached more, my hair grew grayer, my skin loosened. By the time I reached the canyon floor, I was 57 years old. I'd lost 4 months, but I was back in the world of change, of time, of life. I hiked to my vehicle and drove to Emma's house. It was early morning, and she was getting Linda ready for school. When she opened the door and saw me, she gasped, "Dad! Oh my God, Dad!" She pulled me into the house, crying and laughing at the same time. "I thought you were dead. We had a memorial service 2 days ago. Where have you been?" I was in the place I told you about, the place of peace. But I came back. I had to see you one more time. She held me at arm's length, studying my face. "You look older and healthier. How is that possible? Time works differently there. I was there for 4 days. Here it was almost 2 weeks. Take me there. Show me." "No, Emma. Not yet. You have your whole life ahead of you. Your daughter needs you. The students you teach need you. That place is for people who have completed their purposes, and yours are just beginning." She understood, even if she didn't want to. I spent the next 2 months with Emma and Linda. The cancer was back, aggressive, but the pain was manageable with medication. I told Emma stories about her mother, about my years on the force, about the 5th mountain and the people who'd chosen to stay there. And when the pain became too much, when I could feel death approaching, I asked Emma to drive me to the canyon one last time. We sat on the rim, watching the sunset paint the walls red and gold. "When I'm gone," I said, "don't grieve too long. I've had a good life, a complete life. And I'm going to a place of peace. Will I see you again? Someday, when your purposes are complete, when Linda is grown and you've taught all the children you're meant to teach. The mountain will be waiting." She cried, and I held her, and we watched the sun disappear behind the western mountains. That night, I made the climb one final time. My body was failing, cancer eating away at me, but I pushed through. I had to make it to the top. Benjamin was waiting, as always. "You've returned. For good this time. My circle is complete. I'm ready to walk the inward path. Then welcome home, Jessie Yazzie. The 5th mountain has been waiting for you." I walked into the village, into the hogan that would be mine forever. The pain faded, the cancer disappeared, and I was whole again. Time in the 5th mountain was strange. Days passed, or maybe they didn't. The sun rose and set, seasons changed in the valley, but we didn't feel them the way you feel time in the 4 directions. There was no urgency, no countdown, no sense of racing toward an ending. I spent what felt like months learning to live in eternal present. Benjamin taught me how to let go of the need to measure time, to stop counting days and years. Jenna showed me how to find purpose without deadlines, how to create without the pressure of mortality driving me forward. The settlement had its own rhythms. We tended gardens that never failed, harvested crops that always grew, maintained hogans that never truly aged. We gathered each evening at the central fire to share stories, to sing the old songs, to exist in a moment that stretched forever in all directions. It should have been peaceful. It should have been paradise. But I couldn't stop thinking about Emma. In the 4 directions, time was still moving. My daughter was aging, raising Linda, living her life. Every day here was a month there. Every week here was a year. By my calculations, if I'd been here for what felt like 3 months, Emma was now 3 years older. Linda was growing up, starting school, learning to read. I was missing it all. The other residents of the Fifth Mountain seemed content with their choice. Jenna Martinez spent her days teaching the children English and mathematics, creating a small school in one of the larger hogans. The Benallis worked their garden together, Ruth strong and healthy, Danny perpetually 8 years old, playing with the other children who'd arrived over the decades. Thomas City, who'd been here for what he said felt like 15 years, had become the settlement's craftsman, building furniture and tools with wood from the mountain's forests. He told me once that he no longer remembered his family's faces clearly, that the memories had faded like old photographs left in the sun. "It's easier that way," he'd said. "Remembering just makes it hurt." But I didn't want it to be easier. I didn't want to forget Emma's face, her voice, the way she laughed at my terrible jokes. I wanted to hold on to those memories even if they caused pain, because the pain meant the connection was still real. One evening, I found Benjamin at the central fire where the village gathered to share stories. The flames cast dancing shadows across his ageless face. "How do you do it?" I asked him. "How do you accept never seeing your family again?" Benjamin poked at the fire with a long stick, sending sparks spiraling into the darkening sky. "I had no family left," he said quietly. By 1882, the long walk had taken everyone I loved. My wife died at Bosque Redondo. My children were scattered, relocated, lost to me forever. When I found this mountain, I had nothing waiting for me in the 4 directions. So I stayed, and I built a new family here. But others here, they had families. Jenna had a sister. The Benallis had relatives. How did they live with leaving everyone behind? They understand that those relationships were already ending. Jenna's cancer was killing her, stealing her away piece by piece. Ruth Benalli's disease was destroying not just her body, but her family's happiness, forcing them to watch her deteriorate. They chose to preserve the good while they had it, rather than watch it decay. And they hold on to the hope that someday those they loved might join them here. I stared into the flames, watching them consume the wood without diminishing it. Even the fire here was eternal, fed by logs that never fully burned away. "Has anyone ever been reunited?" I asked. Benjamin hesitated, his expression growing distant. "Once, a woman named Mary Tso came here in 1947, escaping an abusive husband who'd nearly killed her. She was young then, maybe 25. Her daughter, Rose, was just a baby when Mary climbed the forbidden path. Rose grew up without her mother, raised by relatives, told that Mary had died. But somehow, through dreams or visions, or the whispers that sometimes leak from the 5th mountain into the 4 directions, Rose learned the truth. She climbed the mountain in 1989, an old woman herself by then, 70 years old and dying of heart disease. What happened? They had one day together. Mary, still young and healthy, held her elderly daughter in her arms. They talked, cried, forgave each other for all the years lost. Rose told her mother about her life, her children, her grandchildren. Mary told Rose about the settlement, about finding peace after years of terror. And then Rose chose to descend, to spend her final months with her own children, to die in the 4 directions surrounded by family. Did Mary try to stop her? No, because Mary understood that Rose's purposes here were complete. She'd come seeking closure, seeking to know that her mother was safe and happy. Once she had that knowledge, she needed to return to finish her own circle. She died 6 months later, peacefully, with her children at her bedside. And Mary remains here, waiting, knowing that someday Rose might return, along with all the descendants she never met. One day, after 42 years, that's all they got? Benjamin's eyes reflected the firelight. One day of peace, of healing, of love without the shadow of abuse or death hanging over it. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes one perfect day is worth more than a lifetime of ordinary ones. But it wasn't enough for me. I wanted more than one day with Emma. I wanted to watch Linda grow up, even from afar. I wanted to know that my daughter was okay, that she'd moved past her grief, that she was living fully in the four directions while I existed outside of time. Is there a way to see them? I asked, without descending. Benjamin looked at me with those ancient eyes that had witnessed over a century of people making this exact request. There is, but Jesse, you should not. Watching the four directions from here is a path to suffering. I've seen it destroy people, turn them into ghosts even while they still walk among us. Show me anyway. He studied me for a long moment, then sighed and stood. Come with me. But remember, I warned you. He led me away from the central fire, away from the village, toward a place I hadn't noticed before. We walked for what felt like an hour, following a narrow path that wound between towering pines and across crystal streams. The path led to a small clearing at the base of the highest peak, where a pool of water sat perfectly still, reflecting the stars above. This is the seeing pool, Benjamin explained, his voice reverent. It shows the four directions from the fifth. You can see anyone you wish, any place, any time, but you cannot interact, cannot change what you see, cannot reach through to touch them. You can only watch as life goes on without you. Many who come here eventually wish they hadn't, because knowing is sometimes worse than wondering. I knelt beside the pool. The water was so still it looked like glass, like I could reach down and touch the stars reflected in its surface. I thought of Emma, focused on her face, on her name, on the bond between us. The water's surface rippled, then cleared, showing me a vision. Emma's classroom at Chinley Elementary. She was teaching, writing on the board, explaining something about Arizona history to her third graders. Her hair was longer than I remembered, pulled back in a neat bun. She looked tired but happy, in her element, doing what she loved. How long has it been down there? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. 5 years since you ascended for the last time. Emma is 33 now. Linda is 9. 5 years. I'd been here for what felt like 6 months, and 5 years had passed in the four directions. The time differential was even worse than I'd thought. Each day I spent here, a month passed for Emma. Each month here, a year there. I watched as Emma dismissed her class, watched as Linda ran into the classroom after school, backpack bouncing, talking excitedly about her day. Emma knelt to hug her daughter, and I saw myself in that gesture, remembered doing the same thing when Emma was that age. She's told Linda about you, Benjamin said softly. Your granddaughter knows her grandfather was a hero, a police officer who died protecting people. Emma's kept your memory alive. The vision faded, the pool returning to its mirror calm reflection of stars. I sat back, my chest aching. Can I see them again, tomorrow? You can see them whenever you wish. But Jesse, please reconsider. This path leads to obsession. I've watched it happen before. People spend all their time here at the seeing pool, living vicariously through those they left behind, forgetting to actually live themselves. They become trapped between the fifth direction and the four, existing in neither. But I didn't listen. I couldn't. Over the next days, or weeks, or months, I stopped trying to measure. I returned to the seeing pool again and again. I watched Emma live her life in fast forward, the time differential turning years into days, decades into months. I saw Linda's 4th grade recital, where she sang a traditional Navajo song that Emma had taught her. I saw her learn to ride a bike. Emma running alongside, holding the seat until Linda found her balance. I saw birthday parties and school plays and quiet evenings at home. I saw Emma, promoted to assistant principal, watched her struggle with the administrative work, missing the classroom but rising to the challenge. I saw her at staff meetings, at parent conferences, at school board presentations. She was good at it, natural, even if it exhausted her. I watched my granddaughter grow from a child to a teenager, saw her navigate middle school and high school, saw her first heartbreak and first triumph. Linda was strong like her mother, kind like her grandmother. 10 years passed in the 4 directions, then 15, then 20. The settlement moved on around me, life continuing in its eternal present, but I lived at the seeing pool, watching time devour my family while I remained untouched. Jenna found me there one evening, staring at Emma's reflection. Emma was 48 now, gray streaks visible in her hair, reading glasses perched on her nose as she graded papers in her office. She'd become principal of Chinley Elementary, and the responsibility showed in the lines on her face. "You're torturing yourself, Jessie," Jenna said, sitting beside me. "I just want to know she's okay." She is. She's living her life. You need to do the same, or what's the point of being here? The point is not dying of cancer. No. The point is living without suffering. But you're choosing suffering anyway, just a different kind. You're suffering the loss of connection, the agony of watching life pass you by without being able to touch it. I didn't look away from the pool. Emma was meeting with teachers now, discussing curriculum, budget cuts, the challenges of teaching on the reservation. She was tired, running on coffee and determination, but she was making a difference. "What would you have me do?" I asked. "Forget them? Pretend they don't exist?" "I would have you accept what is. Emma is living in the 4 directions. You are living in the 5th. Those paths diverged when you climbed these steps for the last time. You made your choice, Jessie. You chose to escape death, to live in eternal present. But you can't have both worlds. You can't live here and still be part of her life down there. I'm not trying to be part of her life. I'm just watching. You're haunting her from a distance, and you're haunting yourself." Jenna left me there, and I continued to watch. Continued to see my daughter age, to see my granddaughter grow into a woman, to see time march relentlessly forward in the 4 directions while I stood still. 25 years passed below. Linda graduated from college, became a teacher like her mother, got married to a good man. Emma walked her daughter down the aisle, and I saw the pride in her eyes, the bittersweet smile as she gave her daughter away. 30 years. Emma retired from being principal, spent more time with her grandchildren, Linda's children. She'd become a grandmother herself, and I saw her with these children I'd never meet, teaching them the same songs she'd sung to Emma, telling them stories about their great-grandfather who'd been a hero. 40 years. Emma was 70, slowing down, her body showing the years that time demanded. But she was still sharp, still engaged, still teaching even in retirement, volunteering at the school, mentoring young teachers. And then, one day, I saw something that broke me. Emma, now 72 years old, frail and thin, lying in a hospital bed. Linda was beside her, holding her hand, gray herself now, 52 years old. A doctor was speaking quietly, explaining that there was nothing more they could do. Emma had suffered a massive stroke. She had days, maybe hours. My daughter was dying. I stumbled away from the seeing pool and ran back to the village. I found Benjamin working in his garden, tending vegetables that would never rot. "I have to go down," I said, my voice breaking. "I have to see her before she dies." Benjamin stood slowly, brushing dirt from his hands. "Jesse, you've been here for 4 years by your subjective experience. That's almost 50 years in the 4 directions. If you descend now, you'll age 50 years in an instant. You'll be over 100 years old. Your body can't survive that kind of shock." "I don't care. She's dying, Benjamin. I have to see her one last time." "Even if it kills you?" "Especially if it kills me. I've been half alive here, watching her from afar like some kind of ghost. At least if I die trying to reach her, I'll die trying. I'll die moving toward her instead of staying frozen in this eternal moment." Benjamin studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "There might be another way. A dangerous way, but possible. Tell me." "The 5th mountain exists in the direction that leads inward, away from time. To stay here, you surrendered your place in the flow of time, and the mountain held that surrender for you, keeping you safe from aging and death. But directions can be reversed. If you walk the inward path backward, if you reverse your surrender and reclaim your place in time, you can exit at the same age you entered. But you'll bring the cancer with you. The disease you left behind when you climbed will return, along with every hour of suffering you avoided. The mountain will give you back your time, but it will also give you back everything that comes with time, including death. I'll take that trade. Jesse, listen carefully. The cancer will be 50 years more advanced than when you left. You'll have days at most, probably hours. The disease that killed you in one timeline will be waiting to finish what it started. Then I'll have days. That's more than I have here, watching her die through a pool of water while I'm trapped in eternal safety." Benjamin led me back to the stone steps that descended to the 4 directions. The whole village gathered to say goodbye, drawn by some instinct, some knowledge that someone was choosing to leave. They understood, even if few of them would make the same choice. Jenna hugged me tight. "Tell my sister I found peace if you get the chance. Tell her I wasn't afraid at the end." The Benallis came forward. Ruth, still young and healthy. Danny, still 8 years old after decades. "We chose to stay together," Ruth said. "But I admire your choice. You're choosing love over safety. That's the bravest thing there is." Thomas Etzity shook my hand. "I couldn't do what you're doing. I've been here so long I don't remember how to be part of time anymore. But I'm glad someone can still make that choice." Benjamin walked with me to the top of the stone steps. The passage descended into darkness, leading back to the 4 directions, back to time and change and death. "Walk backward," Benjamin instructed. "Face the 5th mountain as you descend. Let it see you leaving. Offer back everything it gave you, every day of health, every moment of peace, every hour free from pain. The mountain will take it all back, give you back your place in the flow of time. And when you reach the bottom, if you can still move, run. Run to Emma before the cancer claims you, because it will be racing to catch up for all the years it was denied." I stood at the top of the steps, looking back at the valley that had been my home for 4 subjective years. The impossible meadows where time stood still, the eternal sky unmarked by passing seasons, the people I'd lived among in timeless present. It was beautiful, it was safe, it was a kind of paradise. But Emma was dying in the 4 directions, and I couldn't let her go alone. I turned my back on the 5th mountain and started walking down the steps backward, keeping my eyes on the valley above me. With each step, I felt the mountain taking back its gifts. The cancer that I'd left behind in 2013 came roaring back. Compressed, accelerated. 50 years of progression in 50 steps. The tumor that had been stage 4 became something beyond stage 4, something terminal and vicious and hungry. Pain flooded my abdomen, spreading like wildfire through my body. My muscles weakened, my bones ached, my breath came in ragged gasps. I was aging, too, the years I'd avoided on the mountain catching up with me. My hair went gray, then white. My skin sagged, wrinkled. My joints stiffened with arthritis. But I kept walking backward, kept descending, kept my eyes on the fifth mountain above me as it slowly receded. By the time I reached the canyon floor, I was exactly as I should have been if I'd lived those 50 years normally. 56 years old in body, but carrying 50 additional years of disease progression. The cancer had metastasized throughout my body. I was dying. Had been dying for weeks or months or years without knowing it. I stumbled to my vehicle, somehow still parked where I'd left it decades ago. The keys were in my pocket, right where they'd always been. The truck started on the first try, as if no time had passed at all. I drove toward Chelly, vision blurring, every movement sending waves of agony through my body. My hands shook on the wheel. I could taste blood in my mouth. The hospital was easy to find. I'd been there 1,000 times over the years, visiting colleagues injured on duty, attending community health events, supporting Emma when Linda was born. The receptionist barely glanced at me as I asked for Emma Begay's room. 3rd floor, room 312, but visiting hours are almost over, and I'm family. I took the elevator up, leaning against the wall for support. Each floor felt like climbing a mountain. By the 3rd floor, I could barely stand. Room 312 was at the end of the hall. The door was partially open, and I could hear voices inside. Linda, middle-aged now, her voice thick with tears. A doctor speaking in low, measured tones about comfort care and saying goodbye. I pushed open the door. Linda saw me first. Her mouth fell open in shock. She'd seen photos of me, heard stories, but she'd never met me in person. And now here I was, an old man who looked like the grandfather she'd only known through pictures. "Who?" she started to say, but Emma had turned her head, and our eyes met. "Dad?" Her voice was weak, confused, barely a whisper. "But you died. You died 50 years ago." I walked to her bedside, every step an effort. I took her hand. It was thin and papery, spotted with age, the skin almost translucent. But it was her hand, my daughter's hand. "I didn't die, sweetheart. I was on the 5th mountain. Time works differently there. For me, it's only been 4 years. For you, 50. Tears rolled down her weathered cheeks. "You were gone for 50 years. I'm an old woman now, Dad. Linda has grandchildren. Your great-great-grandchildren. I know. I've been watching from the seeing pool. I saw all of it. Linda's wedding, your retirement, the grandchildren. I saw your whole life. Then why come back now? Why not stay where you were safe?" I sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to disturb the tubes and wires. "Because you're dying, Emma, and I couldn't let you go alone. I couldn't let your last memory of me be saying goodbye on the canyon rim 50 years ago. I had to be here, had to hold your hand one more time. But you're dying too." She reached up with her other hand, touched my face. "I can see it. The cancer came back. I brought it with me. Price of leaving the mountain. But I'd rather die with you than live forever without you." Linda was crying now, and Linda's daughter, my granddaughter whose name I didn't even know, stood in the corner with wide eyes trying to understand how her great-grandfather had just walked in after being dead for half a century. "This is impossible," Linda said. "You can't just... You've been dead since I was 9 years old." "He was on the 5th mountain," Emma said, her voice gaining a little strength. "I told you the story, remember? the place where time doesn't touch, where people go when they need peace. I knew he was there. I always knew. Was it beautiful? Emma asked me, her eyes searching mine. The fifth mountain? It was. Peaceful, eternal, perfect. But it wasn't home. Home is here with you, even if it's just for a day. A day after 50 years. She smiled weakly. Some people would say that's not a fair trade. Those people never had a daughter like you. The doctor had left quietly, giving us space. Linda pulled up chairs for herself and her daughter, and we sat together through the afternoon and into the evening. Emma's vital signs were failing steadily, but she held on, kept talking to me in a whisper. She told me about her life, about raising Linda alone, about the community rallying around her after I disappeared, about becoming principal, about the struggles and triumphs, about retirement and finally having time to be with her grandchildren. 50 years compressed into hours. And I told her about the fifth mountain, about the people there, about watching her from the seeing pool, about the choice between eternal peace and mortal connection, about realizing that watching wasn't living. "Do you regret it?" she asked as the sun began to set. "Leaving the mountain to come here? Not for a second. I'd rather have this one day with you than an eternity up there. Will you go back, after?" I thought about it. When I died, would the mountain pull me back? Would I wake up in that eternal valley, having completed my circle in the 4 directions? I don't know. Maybe. Benjamin said that death in the 4 directions, for one who's known the 5th, is just another direction. Maybe I'll return there. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. Maybe this is finally the end. "If you go back," Emma said, her voice growing weaker, "wait for me. When my time here is complete, when Linda doesn't need me anymore, I'll find the stone steps. I'll climb to the 5th mountain, and we'll be together, really together, forever." "Forever in the eternal present," I agreed. "No more watching from afar. No more time between us. Promise you'll be waiting? Always." As the sun set, I felt the cancer consuming me more rapidly, shutting down my organs one by one. Emma's breathing was slowing too, her heart rate dropping on the monitors. We were both running out of time, our circles closing together. Linda held both our hands, tears streaming down her face. "This isn't fair," she whispered. "I just got him back. I can't lose both of you." "Life isn't about fairness," Emma said. "It's about love. And we've had more than our share. Your mother is right," I said to Linda. "I got to see you grow up, even from a distance. I got to watch you become an amazing woman, an amazing mother. I got to see my great-great-grandchildren even if they don't know me. That's more than most people get." The room grew darker as night fell. Someone turned on a small lamp in the corner, casting soft, warm light. Linda's daughter, whose name I learned was Jenna, named after Emma's mother, brought in coffee and sandwiches, though none of us were hungry. Emma drifted in and out of consciousness, her grip on my hand loosening and tightening. I stayed awake, fighting the cancer's pull, determined to be present for every moment I had left with her. Around midnight, she opened her eyes and looked at me with sudden clarity. "I see it," she whispered. "The 5th mountain. It's calling me too." "Not yet," I said. "You still have time here. Linda still needs you." "No, Linda's strong. She has her own family, her own path. My circle is complete. I'm ready." I understood. She was ready to walk the inward path, to leave the 4 directions behind, to join me in that place beyond time. "Then I'll see you there," I said. "I'll be waiting at the top of the stone steps. And when you arrive, we'll walk into that eternal valley together." "Promise?" "I promise." She smiled, squeezed my hand one last time, and closed her eyes. Her heart monitor began to slow, the beeping growing further apart. Linda was sobbing, but I felt a strange peace wash over me. Emma wasn't dying. She was transitioning, moving from one direction to another. At 12:47 a.m., Emma took her last breath in the 4 directions. At 12:51 a.m., I followed her. I woke in the valley of the 5th mountain, lying in the soft grass near the stone steps. The eternal sun was warm on my face, and I felt no pain. The cancer was gone, the aging reversed. I was whole again. I sat up and looked around. The settlement was there, the Hogans with their smoke rising peacefully into the clear blue sky. Benjamin was walking toward me from the village, a knowing smile on his face. "Welcome back, Jesse. You completed your circle." "Is Emma?" "Not yet. She died in the 4 directions, but she's not ready to walk the inward path immediately. There are other places she needs to visit first, other purposes to complete. The dying go through many directions before they find their final rest. But she will come. When the time is right, she will climb those steps, and you will be here waiting." "How long?" "Time doesn't work that way here. You know this, but don't worry. Whether it feels like a day or a decade to you, whether it's an hour or a year down there, she will come. And when she does, you'll be together forever." I stood and looked back at the stone steps leading down to the 4 directions. I'd walked that path 3 times now, up, down, and up again. I'd lived in eternal present, watched time from afar, and sacrificed everything to spend one day with my daughter. And I'd do it all again. Because in the end, love was worth more than immortality. Connection was worth more than safety. One day together was worth more than a lifetime apart. I walked back to the village with Benjamin, back to the life beyond time, to the direction that leads inward and never ends, and I waited for Emma, knowing that someday soon, in her time, in my eternal present, she would arrive, and we would never be separated again. Epilogue. 2075. The young Navajo tribal police officer stood at the base of the stone steps, staring up at the cleft in the canyon wall. Her GPS showed an impossible waypoint. 5th Sacred Mountain, 15,847 feet. Her name was Jenna Begay, great-great-granddaughter of Emma Yazzie, great-great-great-granddaughter of Jesse Yazzie. She'd grown up hearing the stories, the family legend about the officer who'd found the 5th mountain and disappeared for 50 years, only to return for one day to be with his dying daughter. Most people thought it was just a story, a myth to give meaning to a disappearance. But Jenna had inherited more than just the family name. She'd inherited the ability to see the waypoint on her GPS, the stone steps that shouldn't exist, the invitation to walk the inward path. She'd been searching for a missing hiker, and the trail had led her here. But she knew in her heart that the hiker was long gone, had probably climbed these steps months ago. The mountain had called them, just as it was calling her now. She thought about her life. 28 years old, single, career-focused. She'd made detective last year, youngest in the department. She had her whole future ahead of her. Marriage, children, grandchildren. Decades of life in the 4 directions. But she also had her great-great-grandmother's early-onset Alzheimer's diagnosis. Genetic, progressive, inevitable. She'd watched her grandmother fade, watched her mother begin to forget. In 10 years, maybe 15, she'd start losing herself too. Her memories, her identity, everything that made her who she was would slip away. Unless she climbed. She picked up one of the badges from the cairn at the base of the steps. Number 318, Jesse Yazzie's badge. On the back, the inscription, "To the 5th direction, may we walk in beauty." She held the badge for a long moment, feeling the weight of the choice. Stay in the 4 directions and face inevitable decline, or climb to the fifth mountain and live in eternal present, forever herself, never forgetting. She thought about Jesse and Emma, how they'd been reunited after 50 years, how they were together now, in that place beyond time, waiting for the rest of their family to complete their circles and join them. Jenna put the badge back and turned away from the steps. Not yet. Her purposes in the 4 directions weren't complete. She still had cases to solve, people to help, a life to live. And maybe, just maybe, medical science would find a cure before her own symptoms started. Maybe she wouldn't have to make this choice at all. But if the day came when she could feel her memories beginning to slip, when she could feel herself starting to fade, she knew where to find the path. The 5th sacred mountain would be waiting, and so would Jesse and Emma, her ancestors, her family, ready to welcome her home to the direction that leads inward, where forgetting is impossible and love lasts forever. She walked back to her patrol vehicle, leaving the stone steps behind. But she marked the location on her GPS, saved it under a private file that only she could access, just in case. Because some choices couldn't be unmade, but they could be postponed. And sometimes, knowing you had an escape route was enough to give you the courage to keep walking the harder path. Jenna drove away from Canyon de Chelly as the sun set behind her, painting the red walls in shades of gold and amber. Behind her, the 5th sacred mountain stood invisible and eternal, holding its secrets, keeping its promises, waiting for those who needed it. It had waited for over a century. It could wait a little longer.